Hey, what's up, all you card fighters out there? This is Josh from Team Guardians of Cray, back at it again with another deck profile. This time, it is of a profile I've done before. It is a little bit different since we've got the set 11 support, but this is the deck that I took currently this past weekend to the Raleigh ARG and came in 4th place with the deck. This is actually the mat that came with it. It's a Drag Strider Luard mat. See the top 8 down here. This mat is very nice. I like it a lot. Tried to get it into the picture as much as possible just to show you guys what it looks like. So the deck that I played was obviously a Kagero deck. A lot of people thought that I was going to be playing the new support, as in Blade Master Cohen, since I just did a deck profile on that. And turns out that as much as I did like the deck, it lacked something, and I didn't know what it was until I came up with a little bit of a modified build of my Overlord deck. Surprise, surprise, it's an Overlord deck. So without further ado, we'll get right into that profile right away. Alright. Perfect. So we're going to start off with the grade 0s, of course, like we always do. So one of the key things about this deck that's going to make it work, sorry about that, what I called the deck is an Overlord Turbo deck. I didn't come up with that name, someone else came up with it because of the way the deck plays. So our grade 0 is Lizard Soldier Conroe. You guys know what he does. Quick Synapsis, Counterblast 1, retire him. Search your deck for any grade 1, add it to hand. 99.9% of the time, the grade 1 you're going to search out is the grade 1 Lizard General Conroe. I'll go over some of the combos and I'll go over what I played against a little bit and how I did overall in the tournament, but I'll just go over the deck profile first. So we play 1 starter Lizard Soldier Conroe, and just like most Overlord builds, we are playing 5 draw. I played 2 of the Seal Dragon Art Peak and 3 of the Gatling Claw draw trigger. Seal Dragon Art Peak is our Marble clone, put into the soul from the rear guard, give a unit +3. And of course, Gatling Claw Dragon Counterblast 1, put him into the soul, retire one of your opponent's grade 0 rear guards. Draws in this deck are very important. It's going to help you draw into your key pieces, and the earlier you hit them sometimes, the better it is for you. So we definitely want to see our 5 draws. And for the rest of our triggers, we're playing 7 crit. So I play 3 Embodiment of Spirit Tar just because Tar. And 4 of the Blade Master crit trigger. Realistically, in this deck now, back in when you used to play Overlord before set 11 dropped, you would go into Titan to Stride. In this deck, even, I don't see myself going into it that much, so you don't need the Dragonite Janats, but I have them, so why not play them? And I do have the Titans in my G-Zone, just in case I do go into it. But it's just there, 7 crits, 5 draw, and of course, it wouldn't be a Kagero deck without heals, because we need Dial Griffins and G-Guards. And we're using the positive Draco Kid, just because it is a Flame Dragon, it's searchable with the Legend. If you do go into the Legend, you have that opportunity. Alright, so for our grade 1s, start off, we play 2 Lizard Soldier Belog, the promo. Still like this card, even in this deck. I only played 2 in this deck because this deck specifically is not really meant to go too long into the game. This is more of a, I don't want to say it's a rush deck, but it is a pressure version. That's why it's a turbo build, because it's meant to kill your opponent pretty fast. Especially against decks that rush you, this deck does really well. Specifically, blasters. And we'll go over that after. So I played 2 of this just, for the free retire. 3 Lava Flow Dragon because you still want to stride and you need your grade 3s in hand for skills. So we play 3 Stride Fodder, even though our deck does play 9 grade 3s still. That could possibly change, but as of right now, I like it like that. It's working well. So we play 3 Stride Fodder. And 4 of the card that makes this deck actually work the way it does is Lizard General Conroe. In case you don't know what he does, his skill is choose a great choose a great thing from your hand and reveal it. When this unit is placed on rear guard from your hand, you may pay the cost. If you do, search your deck for up to 1 grade 3 with Overlord in its card name, reveal it to your opponent, put it into your hand, shuffle your deck, choose a card from your hand, and discard it. This card is what single-handedly makes the whole turbo combo work in this deck, because unlike most decks nowadays, especially with G decks, you like to go second. In this deck, you actually like to go first. But we'll get into more of that once we go into some of the combos in the deck. But yeah, so you need 4 of this guy because you want to see him as early as possible. And the reason why we play our other Conroe is to search this Conroe out. So you're usually always guaranteed 1, but having 2 to 3 before you hit your grade 3 really helps. Or when you ride your grade 3 that turn, it really, really, really helps. And we play 4 Protect Orb Dragon just because countercharge is always a good thing no matter what, even though... Oh yeah, and then of course, skip this guy. His other skill is act rear guard, retire this unit, choose up to 1 of your vanguards with Overlord in his card name, and until the end of the turn it gets, when this unit attacks, countercharge 2. Every time. It doesn't attack a vanguard, it doesn't attack anything specifically, it's just when it attacks, countercharge 2, which actually makes the turbo combo also very important as having this guy on the board. And, of course, more countercharge with the PGs. Going into our grade 2s, we play 3 Dragon Knight Nadim. That's one of the things I switched up. I was playing 4, but Nadim's not as necessary in this deck build. I was even almost contemplating playing 10k Vanillas just because of Rush, but with this deck, I really don't care if I get rushed, so having the Blaze pressure with him being an 11k attacker still can hit Vanguard by itself without boosters, because this deck still does lack boosters. And when this unit attacks the Vanguard, if the Vanguard is blazing, he gets plus 2, and he also gets the Generation Break 1 ability of when an attack hits, countercharge. So it's more countercharge power if you need it. Our next grade 2 we play is 4 Dragonic Burnout. Now, most decks play 3. I was playing 3. I just added in the 4th one the day of the tournament. I like having this card because with the plays with the deck, the early game full board state that I try to get, having him, seeing him as early as possible to pop a starter so I don't have to use Gatling Claw Dragon for the counterblast, I can use Conroe instead, really helps. To kill pesky starters, or for Ziegenberg, you know, you use a Ziegenberg to pop a thing, and you can use him to pop something. That way, now you have to pay less cards to use Ziegenberg, because we still play Ziegenberg in the deck. So he's actually more important now, so we bumped him up back to 4. And we play 4 Emperor Dragon Knight Nahalem. Emperor Dragon Knight Nahalem skill, I'm sure you know, is GB1. During your turn, if you have a Vanguard with Overlord in this card name, it gains 2k. And auto, when your grade 4 or greater Vanguard attacks, this unit gets plus 5k. So it does work with Ziegenberg, since Ziegenberg takes the name of the card in the heart. So he's still a 21k attacker when you restand. So he's still your main beat stick in the deck. It's very important to have him. On to our grade 3s. We play 2 Dragonic Overlord, the Legend. The Legend is just in there as like a space filler currently. To be honest, I really don't like this card. I'll only go into him for his on-ride skill most of the time, which is a Counterblast, Soul Blast, and when this unit is placed on Vanguard, you can pay the cost. If you do search top 5 for a Flame Dragon, edit the hand. Other than that, I don't really even ride to him all that often. He's just there because he's an Overlord, and you know, he's still decent on ride, so it gives you a free card, perfect guards, heal triggers, whatever. Play 3 Dragonic Overlord, the Cross. He's still actually pretty decent, even in the current meta, because of the way the deck works and runs. We actually need him to help us to not deck out. And also, when we get our deck thinned out to the point where we only have a little cards left in deck, getting triggers back in your deck, heals or crits, and he hits for good numbers. As a Legion with a booster, you can hit stride numbers, and usually by then your opponent has used all their perfect guards or all their G guards. And, you know, we're going to use him. But we use him because of the card in the deck that actually makes this deck work. It is the End, believe it or not. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, set 5, Dragonic Overlord, the End, is the reason why this is called Overlord Turbo. So, I'm sure everyone knows this skill. If you don't, you should know, but it is... The only part of the skill we care about is Counterblast 2, and choose a card named Dragonic Overlord, the End, from your hand and discard it. When this unit attack hits, you may pay the cost. If you do, stand this unit. Why is this guy important? It's because this is what lets the combos go off. So, we go first every game. If your opponent wins the dice roll and they choose, usually they're going to choose to go second. And if we win the dice roll, we choose to go first. So no matter what, we're usually going first. I think out of the matches I had yesterday, I started second once, actually. And the deck still works, but we really want to go first with this deck. So the reason why is because against decks that like to rush you, or even against decks that don't like to rush you, riding grade 3 first, you ride him, you call Conros out, search multiple copies of him, you have on-hit pressure of a restanding Vanguard before they usually hit grade 3. Most of the time, they may guard it, but they're going to waste a perfect guard in the beginning, which makes your stride more lethal next turn. Or they're going to drop multiple 10k shields to no pass or 2 to pass his attack, which is going to make leave their hand even more empty. Again, stride's turns are going to be more scary. Also, but if he does hit, we can restand with him. On average, I think I restand with him 3 times in a turn. That means, yes, I do get 6 drive checks before I hit stride, before my opponent hits grade 3. Usually they're dead. This card's really good. I like it in the current meta because the kind of decks we have right now are decks that like to rush you. So we have blasters, even gears. Certain decks will like to call out a board early because they want to try to rush other G decks and try to hurt them. But this deck doesn't care. You're going to give me damage. I go to 2-3 damage by the time I write grade 3. Now I can attack your rear guards because he can hit anything and restand. So I'll attack a rear guard. Oh, you wasted all your cards to try to rush me. You can't guard it. Cool. Counterblast 2. Restand. I get Twin Drive. I get 1 trigger. He's 16. Swing at the other rear guard. I've done this already. They go, shit, no guard. Can't guard that one. Hit another trigger. Maybe it's a crit. Oh, all effects Vanguard. Swing your Vanguard. 21,000 double crit. And the reason why you keep doing this is because you activate the Conroe to countercharge. So every time you attack and you counterblast 2 when it hits, you countercharge 2 when it attacks. So you can just loop it. So this puts on a fast-paced Overlord deck. So now not only do I have a hand of like 10 cards, especially because maybe you hit draw triggers, maybe, you know, whatever, you're either going to be forcing resource from your opponent's hand, or you're going to be forcing yourself to have a more powerful hand. So when they go into their stride, you're not really worried about it because you already have 10 cards plus in hand before they even rode grade 3. And then by then, you probably have a heal trigger, which is going to be helpful because you want to G-guard early, because then you can go into Ziegenberg as your first stride. So you're just restanding from the get-go. This works really well, but I will show you some combos with it after we finish. So, yep, that's the deck. And of course, you know, you can Legion with the X with him, late game, and still put on some pressure for restand. Yep. Next, we go into our G-Zone. So for our G-Guardians, we're playing one of the set 11 G-Guard. I still like him. Still good. He actually helped me out a couple times this weekend. Counterblast 1, he gains plus 10k for each open rear guard on your opponent's side of the field. I've noticed nowadays a lot of decks use rear guards to pay cost, and when it turns over to your turn, they don't usually, they'll use rear guards to pay cost on their turn, and when they attack, sometimes they don't have enough. They still have like 2 to 3 open rear guard circles. And if I don't denial griffin them or whatever, and I can use him, and he gets an extra 20 to 30k on average, it's really good. Most of the time, it's going to be a no pass. So that's why we play one of him. We play one Advanced Guard Dragon, the Fighters Collection one. I still like him. He still gives you the opportunity to retire a unit without using Counterblasts and using Soul instead. I'm sure you already know his skill. Soul Blast 1, Generation Break 1, choose a G-Guardian, flip it face up. If you do an easiest place on Guardian Circle, you can retire a grade 1 or less rested rear guard and retire it. So if they're boosting with like a rear guard with a grade 1 and it's a big number, you can call him out, pay the cost, and retire the booster, and it loses the boost too, so it guarantees the attack won't hit, blah. all that good stuff. 2 Flame Wing Steel Beast Denali Griffin, still the best G-Guard. We all know what he does. He's the reason why a lot of people are salty when you play this deck. Counterblast 1 when you G-Guard with him and pop the attacking unit. Really good. Self-explanatory. And we play 1 of the Supreme Heavenly Emperor Dragon Defeat Flare. A lot of people didn't like him necessarily at first. Even I was like, he's okay. He came in clutch this weekend because certain decks now, especially with GB8s, which help all your rear guards get a lot of power, this guy can just go kill that back row and significantly weaken their forces. Or if you want to go into Ziegenberg next turn and they have a full board, defeat Flare, kill their back row, and now you don't have to worry about dropping a lot of cards for Ziegenberg cost. So he's actually really, really good now, and he's going to also help you so you don't deck out. So we got, those are our 5 G-Guards, and now we're into the main G-Zone. So as our first strides, we still have Vortex Desire and Dragon Knight Mustafa. One has the on-hit retire 2, usually. If you're in Legion, it can retire 3 potentially if it hits. And our guaranteed retire 1 unit with Mustafa skill. You're going to still flip up a copy of Titan with either one of their skills because they both flip up. That way it gives us a good GB3 when we go into Stride 2. But with the way the deck is built now, we usually don't go into him. Either of them Stride 1 will go into Ziegenberg, and I'll explain that later. But in case you still have to go second and you Stride first, that's what your combo is going to be. And of course, Titan skill. We only play 2 in the deck because, like I said, we don't really go into him. But if we do, he's just Counterblast 1, choose a face down card when your G-Zone, turn it face up. For every copy of himself in the G-Zone, pop a unit, and then if your Vanguard's blazing, he gains a crit. Simple as that. Next, we have 1 copy of the GB8, the Supreme Heavenly Emperor Dragon, Blazing Burst Dragon. I went into him once this weekend. He's a pretty good card. His skill is on a GB8, when this unit attacks a Vanguard, retire all of your opponent's units, and all your units gain plus 10k each. If you retire 3 or more of your opponent's rear guards, he gains 10k in a crit himself. So it's a cool board wipe. It's free. It powers up your whole board. It does what you would want a GB8 to do, if you ever get to that point. But he's always there just in case you do. Then we play 2 Supreme Heavenly Emperor Dragon Draconic Overlord, the Ace. I play him purely for the fact if I run out of Ziegenberg and I have the extra Overlord in hand or the extra 2 Counterblasts or both, I just go into him as another restander. His skill is Counterblast 2, choose a copy of himself, turn it face up. He loses, if you pay the cost, and you have 2 or more cards in your G-Zone until the end of the turn, he gains drive -1, and once per turn, if you have a card, choose a card from your hand, discard it, choose a card with Overlord in your hand, discard it. At the end of the battle, if this unit attacked a Vanguard, you can pay the cost. If you do, you stand him, and the second time he swings, he gains 5k. So you get Twin Drive on both attacks. Most people think you should get the same amount of drive checks as you do with Ziegenberg. It's still pretty good, but he's just too costly sometimes to play him. You need the grade 3 or Stride Fodder to Stride it. Then you need to discard a card and then get rid of an Overlord, which could be another Stride Fodder for next turn. He's but he's in there as a restander, just in case I run out of the main restander. Flare Arm Ziegenberg, still the MVP of our Stride Zone. He's still the best card to stride into. He's from set 11, Blaze ability. His other abilities, once per turn, Soul Blast 1, choose a copy of himself, turn it face up, pop a unit. And then his once per turn, GB3, Counterblast 1, choose the same number of cards as your opponent's rear guards and discard them from your hand. If you do, he gets to restand with drive -2. He came in very handy. Usually once you go into this guy, and if your Overlord the End turbo skills went off, they usually don't have enough to guard a lot of things, and then he's going to be just putting on so much pressure on your opponent. But that's the deck, and I'll go into a little bit about what I saw this weekend. So what happened was I played I played a Luard. I played Amaruta. I played ZTBs. I played... What was it? It was Luard, ZTBs, Amaruta, Domination. Yeah, I think that's it. Should be 5, right? Well, anyway, I'll remember as I'm talking about it. So, your field usually is going to look something like this by the time you ride grade 3. So you might have, the end is going to be your main Vanguard. So I'm just going to put this up a little bit, that way we can all see. Alright, cool. So the end is going to be like your main Vanguard. Usually your hand will look something like you have 2 ends in hand. It doesn't really matter. You may have usually about 2 of these guys on your board, and you'll have, usually it looks something like this, counterblasted wise. So you'll usually have about 2 to 3 damage. Let's just say we had 3 in this scenario. And then you had something like this. Like this. Shuffle the deck up a little bit. So then your deck's here. Boom. And your hand looks something like that because you activated these guys and you got these to hand. You call something over here just because maybe you want to have something to get triggers in case attacks don't hit. Activate one of your Conros, give the skill to him. Sometimes you'll even have this in hand. Sometimes you'll have a Seal Dragon Art Peak in hand. You'll call it here and give the skill to Vanguard. So it gains plus 3k. So he's 14 on his own. Mind you, your opponent's going to be at grade 2 at this point because you went first. Now you're going to swing. Now depending on what they have rear guards. I always swing at their rear guard. Why? Purely because of advantage. Usually people don't want to guard it. You're going to countercharge because of the Conroe skill. And they're going to say guard, no guard. If they don't guard it, no guard, cool. Twin Drive, first check, is a heal trigger, plus 5 Vanguard. Let's say we heal because, you know, it's early game still. Second check, draw a trigger, plus 5 to Vanguard. And then I draw a card. So now he's at 24. Skill, Counterblast, Persona, you restand, he's at 24. Let's say he has another rear guard. We're going to swing 24 at the other rear guard. We're going to countercharge again. He's going to say no guard because he's at 24 now. It's harder to guard. Maybe he doesn't have the PG. First check, critical trigger, all effects. Second check, nothing. Cool. Skill again. We're going to just keep doing this. He's going to restand again. Now he's got 29. Double crit Vanguard. Oh no, he can't guard it? Well, I guess we get to attack again. First and second. Cool. He just took 2 damage, which doesn't seem like a lot. But we weakened his board, which is going to make him play more cards from his hand next turn. And now we have this many cards in hand. Yes, this is an old card, and we all know what it does. And it seems simple enough. But the setup with having the Conroe search out another Conroe, having the playing your grade 2, activating your Conroe right there, getting more ends in hand to put fear in your opponent because they're like, oh crap, maybe I can't rush them, maybe I should just rush them and try to kill them, and then calling out another card, maybe calling out a burnout from your hand, and then retiring more units before they get to ride things. It worked out really well this weekend. I played against Luard, round 1. Game 1 Luard, we went into time, and he won because it was my only loss of the day. It was actually Nate from Team Absolution, so shout out to you, Nate. We had a fun game. Had to hug it out afterwards. It was definitely fun. We played our best out of, well, it was supposed to be 2 out of 3, but we got to game 2 in time later on in the game, and we ended up tying game 2. So since he won game 1, he won the match, which is fine. I had fun. I went there to have fun. It was a good time. So that was Luard. But the games lasted so long because we both generated so much advantage from having decks that put on a lot of pressure. Then what we did, I went and played an Amaruta player. Deck's very good, puts on a lot of pressure with a lot of high number effects. I always had the end in hand, usually in a Conroe and a different grade 1. So I always had my end skills going off. The end pressure. They would sometimes PG the rear guard, and now they don't have a PG in their hand. They just wasted a PG on his rear guard just so I didn't get the advantage from the restand. We went to game 3 on that one, beat him game 3, and I won that. The third match was against the Zodiac Time Beast player. Also went all 3 games. Also put on pressure with the end. They also like to guard their rear guards. So I generated more advantage than they did, which is pretty much what ZTBs does right now, is generating a lot of hand advantage. But the deck itself, it puts a lot of pressure on with, hitting those draw triggers is a big thing with this deck, and it does tend to do that, especially defensively. And being able to have so many things that are going to restand, this really puts on a lot more pressure than is necessary for a lot of people. And they don't realize that, so they think this card is just bad because it has to have on-hit. But the on-hit pressure is what makes the deck good. We went to 3 games on that one. And then round 4, I played against Blasters. And when I knew I was playing against Blasters, that's when I knew this deck was going to shine. Because Blasters like to rush you early. So Blasters like to drop their hand and just push for game early before they even get the stride sometimes. So he pushed me to 3 damage. He had a full board, pretty much, of full front rows. And then I strode, and I had 3 copies of the end. Attacked his rear guard. No guarded it. Check 1 was a crit. Check 2 was nothing. Restand, attacked the other rear guard. Couldn't guard it. Another draw, whatever. Attack for Vanguard. Crit, and whatever. And he couldn't guard that either. So we went to, 1 to 4. Or 1 to 5. Before we even got the stride, he went. I G-guarded. I strode to Ziegenberg. Triple crit for game. Game 2, he went from 2 to 6 before he even wrote his grade 3, because I used the end again, because he tried to rush again, attacked end, crits, and everything. So it pretty much beat that deck within 10 minutes. It did what the deck was meant to do. And then I played Domination, and then Domination, you got to play a little bit differently. You can't flood your own field, because, Dominate's a thing. But played against a good friend of mine. We had a really good match. I took both games, but the pressure of just restanding is just too good. And then, boom, that's how I got here to 4th place. So, if you like the deck, please give it a like. If you want to know a little bit more combo-oriented wise, how you play it a little bit more, feel free to message on here, or you can go on the Facebook page and message on some of our comments, our pictures, everything. These cards are what make the deck good. You're going to restand a lot. You're going to generate a lot of advantage. You're going to hit numbers. Alright? So again, this is Team with Josh Guardians of Cray, giving you my deck profile, my Overlord Turbo build. And we'll see you next time. We're definitely going to get some more deck profiles of the other decks that played in the ARG in Raleigh. And when we do, we're also going to have our trigger chats back, and we'll talk more about it in depth. Alright guys, have a good one. Peace.